Welcome to Alien's Shadow. If you love epic sci-fi stories where humanity shines, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for thrilling HFY adventures. Join us and be part of the journey. The girl no one fed she sat behind the trash bins near the cargo station, small, thin, and shaking from the cold wind of the space colony's lower deck. Her skin was dull purple, marked with bruises and dirt. She hadn't eaten for 3 days, maybe more. She had stopped. Counting, her belly ached with sharp pain. But worse was the empty feeling in her chest. It wasn't just hunger, it was the way no one looked at her anymore. Humans walked by with food trays in their hands, laughing, chatting, smelling of warm bread and fried meat. Some saw her, some didn't, but no one ever stopped. One guard even kicked a bone near her and laughed. "You're part of the scenery now, alien." She didn't cry. Not anymore. Even her tears had dried up. She just watched. Her glowing yellow eyes blinking, slowly as her body weakened with every hour. Once, long ago, she had lived on a planet of green skies and silver trees. Her people sang to the stars and taught their young to speak with animals. But then the war came, burning her forests. Killing her parents, she escaped with a transport ship, hiding under crates, surviving on crumbs. When the ship landed on this human station, she crawled out, unnoticed. She thought someone would help her here, give her a name, a blanket, a little food. But the humans had rules, and one rule was this: refugees not on the list didn't exist. She tried to speak once, but her voice was weak, and her language too. Strange, a boy threw a stone at her and called her a street rat. So she stopped trying, and silence became her only friend that morning. She woke to find a piece of fruit half-eaten near the garbage chute. She reached for it, only to see a rat. Grab it and run. Her arms dropped to her sides, too tired to chase it. Her head lowered. Her lips dry and cracked. Her legs no longer felt like hers. She knew what would happen if no one came today. Then, just after the lunch crowd passed, a pair of boots stopped. In front of her, she didn't lift her head at first, thinking it was another cruel voice or a kick, but the voice that came was soft, quiet, and kind. "Hey," it said, "are you hungry?" Her head moved slightly, just enough to look up. A young human man stood there, with messy brown hair and grease on his uniform. He held a small tray of food, rice, boiled vegetables, a bread roll. She stared at it, then at him, then at the ground. Again, she had learned not to trust gifts. They usually came with pain, but the human didn't force her, didn't laugh, didn't shout. He sat down right in front of her, placed the tray between them. "My name's Tyler," he said. "I'm a mechanic here." Still no answer, but he kept talking, as if she was already his friend. "I see you here every day. You don't make trouble. You just sit. You're quiet." His voice was calm, almost like a whisper. She stared at the bread roll, her fingers twitching, but fear held her back. Tyler noticed, so he tore the bread in half and took a bite himself. "See? Not poisoned," he smiled. "It's good. You can eat with me." The words touched something inside her, something almost dead, but not quite gone. Slowly, she reached out, her fingers trembling like leaves in a storm. She grabbed a piece of bread and pulled it close. Biting it gently, carefully, the taste exploded in her mouth. Soft and warm and real, she chewed slowly, tears forming in her eyes without her knowing. Tyler didn't speak. He just waited while she ate the rest, and for the first time in so long, she didn't feel invisible. After the meal, she tried to give him the tray back, but he waved it off. "Keep it, I'll get another," he said, standing up slowly. She stared at him, her mouth slightly open, unsure what to say. He paused, then reached into his pocket and handed her a folded napkin. It had a little drawing on it, 2 stick figures sitting together under a star. "I'll see you tomorrow," he said, walking away. She watched him disappear into the crowd, her fingers still holding the napkin, and though she didn't know the words for it, her heart felt something new. Not just warmth, not just food, but hope. She had been the girl no one fed but today. One human whispered, "You can eat with me." A meal like no other the next day. The girl waited behind the same trash bins. Her thin fingers clutched the folded napkin like it was treasure. She hadn't spoken a word, not even in her own language. But something had changed inside her. She had felt a human voice without anger, a human hand without violence, and food that wasn't thrown but offered. Her body still hurt. Her legs were still weak, but her eyes watched every person that passed. She waited not for food, but for him, the one who had whispered those soft words to her soul. The crowd came and went like yesterday. Noisy boots, loud voices, cold stares. But she didn't flinch anymore, didn't bow her head. She waited with the napkin tucked in her sleeve. Just when she thought maybe he wouldn't return, she saw him, Tyler, the mechanic. His shirt was stained with oil, his face sweaty. But he smiled when he spotted her. She blinked fast, unsure what to do, and hugged the napkin tighter. "I told you I'd come back," Tyler said, kneeling again in front of her. This time he brought not just one tray, but two. He handed her one carefully, not forcing, not rushing. "Figured maybe we could eat together again," he said. "If that's okay." She stared at the tray, then at him, then nodded. Just once, he smiled, sat beside her, and opened his tray like it was the most normal thing in the world. She took her first bite, slower this time, not from fear, but from choice. The rice was soft, the stew had flavor, and there was even a small sweet at the edge of the plate. Her fingers trembled as she tasted it, the sugar sharp and new on her tongue. She closed her eyes while she chewed, and for a moment she didn't feel like trash. Tyler didn't ask questions. He just spoke about the machines he worked on. He told her about a broken crawler that caught fire last week, and how the captain nearly fainted. The girl didn't understand every word, but she listened closely. His voice was music, not a song, but something better, something alive. When she looked at him, she didn't see a guard or a traitor, she saw light. "You don't talk, huh?" Tyler asked gently, not mocking, just curious. She shook her head, slowly. Her eyes focused on the food again. "That's okay," he said. "My cousin didn't talk for a year after her escape pod crash." The girl tilted her head, unsure what a cousin was, but she listened. "I called her Bird, 'cause she looked so small and always watched everything like a sparrow." He took out a small bottle of water and offered her half. She drank it in small sips, careful not to spill. Her hands were still dirty. But he never made a face or pulled away. She had eaten with creatures before, rats, once even a stray. Drone, but never a person. Not like this, not side by side, not like equals. A group of workers passed by and laughed, pointing at Tyler, feeding rats now. One of them shouted, "She's just an alien thief." Tyler didn't stand up or yell. He just looked at the girl and spoke softly. "Don't listen to them. They don't know anything," he said. The girl looked down, but something inside her burned, not shame, but something else. Anger, maybe, or maybe the feeling of being protected. No one had ever spoken for her before. No one had stood between her and the storm. When Tyler finished his meal, he folded the tray and stood. He looked at her once more, serious this time. "I'm gonna come by every day, all right? Unless the station collapses," he joked with a smile. She nodded again, faster this time, a tiny spark in her eyes. He dug into his pocket and handed her a wrapped protein bar. "Keep it for later, in case I'm late tomorrow," he said. Her hands accepted it like it was gold. As he turned and walked away, she felt something warm settle deep in her chest. Later, after the station lights dimmed and the crowd thinned, She sat behind the bins again. She didn't eat the bar. Not yet. She just held it. For the first time in cycles, her stomach wasn't tight with fear. She leaned against the metal wall, eyes on the napkin and the gift in her hand, and whispered softly to herself in her old language, "Tomorrow, I will wait for him again." A name and a purpose. Tyler arrived later than usual. Grease up to his elbows and a tool belt dragging behind him. The girl was already there, standing this time, her thin body leaning against the cargo wall. When she saw him, she didn't smile. But her eyes lit up, bright and alive. Tyler grinned and waved the moment he saw her waiting. "You look taller today," he joked, then handed her the meal tray like it was tradition. She didn't sit right away, just held the tray, eyes shifting between his face and the sky. There was something different about her. Now she was not just surviving, she was returning. Tyler noticed the way her hands didn't shake as much when she ate, the way her posture had lifted, the way she chewed without rushing. Something had changed, and it made him feel proud. He didn't ask her name that day, not yet. But he watched her carefully as she picked through the food, saving the sweet for last, after they ate. He handed her a small packet of cleaning wipes and pointed at his hands. "I get messy all the time," he said. "Want to learn how to fix things?" The girl blinked, then nodded slowly, her fingers closing around the wipes. Tyler took her to the repair bay after hours. When most workers had left, he showed her a broken fuse link, then handed her the tool. Her small hands moved with care. Following every motion he made, he didn't speak much, just pointed and nodded. She didn't need words, she understood things with her eyes and her heart. The next day, he brought her a clean cloth apron, one meant for junior techs. It dragged on the floor when she wore it, but she didn't care. Tyler adjusted the straps until it fit better, then gave her a screwdriver. "This one's yours," he said. "Take care of it, and it'll take care of you." Her fingers brushed the handle like it was made of stars. "You don't talk much, but you understand everything," Tyler said one evening they'd finished fixing a wall panel. She was wiping sweat from her brow. He looked at her with gentle curiosity and asked, "Can I call you something?" She tilted her head, unsure, then shrugged slightly, as if to say yes. "I was thinking, sorry," he said. "It means hope in my mom's old language." She stared at him for a long moment, then touched her chest. "Sorry," he said. Again, slower, like a promise. She nodded once, then pointed at him with a tiny questioning look. "Tyler," he replied, patting his own chest. She copied it, tapping her chest, then his, then hers again. "Sorry," from that day forward. Everyone who worked near the lower deck saw them together. A tall, scruffy mechanic and a small purple girl in an oversized apron. She cleaned panels, sorted wires, and handed tools like she had done it forever. Tyler never bragged, never explained. He just let her be what others had refused to see. Someone with purpose, someone who mattered. One afternoon, the captain himself came down to inspect the bay. He noticed Sari working with focused eyes and quick hands. "Who's that?" the captain asked, pointing with suspicion. Tyler stood straight and answered, "My cousin, sir, new helper. Very quiet, but learns fast." The captain grunted and moved on, never looking twice. Later that evening, Tyler handed Sari a pair of old gloves with the fingers cut short. She slid them on, flexing her hands like a warrior preparing for battle. "You've got a real future here." "Sorry," Tyler said with pride. She didn't speak, but she bowed her head once, slow and deep. He understood the meaning gratitude, trust, maybe even something more, when Sari returned to her hidden corner. That night, she didn't feel small anymore. She looked at the stars above and held her gloves close to her chest. The napkin, the screwdriver, the apron, each one told a part of her new story. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but now she had a name and a reason to wake. Not to survive, but to grow, to fix, to belong. The day she spoke, the warning siren howled through the docking bay like a wounded animal. Tyler dropped his toolbox and ran toward the noise, heart pounding. Smoke billowed from a storage conduit above Bay 6, sparks flying in every direction. Crew members shouted over each other, some grabbing fire foam, others just staring, frozen. It was chaos, loud, hot, and dangerous. In the middle of it all stood Sari, eyes wide, hands clenched, her small frame shaking from heat and fear. She had been cleaning near the panel when it exploded. Now flames licked the walls, and a fuel drum nearby hissed with rising pressure. If that drum ignited, the whole wing would go up. And still, no one moved toward it. Someone get that shutoff valve. Tyler shouted, but the other techs hesitated. Sari knew where the switch was. Tyler had shown her last week during a safety lesson. Her heart raced, her thoughts screamed, but her legs moved without thinking. She ran low to the ground. Smoke. Stinging her eyes, she reached the back wall and found the lever rusted, old, half-melted from the heat. She grabbed it with both hands and pulled. It didn't move. She pulled again, harder. Her feet bracing against the floor, the valve groaned. And then, suddenly, it slammed shut. The hissing stopped, the danger froze, and the fire weakened. Tyler rushed toward her, coughing. Sorry. She turned to him, eyes wet but alive, and then, to everyone's shock, she spoke, her voice raspy, broken, but clear. Next. Panel, she said, pointing upward, hot. Still leaking, her voice was like stone cracking, like a mountain waking from sleep. The entire bay went silent. Stunned, Sari had spoken, not just to Tyler, but to everyone, and they had listened. Not with laughter, but respect. Tyler's eyes filled with something deeper than pride. It was awe. He grabbed a mask and tossed it to her. Lead the way, he said, with Tyler at her side. She climbed the scaffold to the upper panel. They worked fast, sealing the leak with foam. Rerouting power through the emergency conduit, the captain arrived mid-repair, jaw clenched, ready to bark, orders then froze. He saw Sari hanging by her belt from the scaffold, tightening the panel bolts. Who trained her? He asked, voice low. I did, Tyler replied, steady. The captain watched as Sari swung down from the scaffold like a seasoned tech. She landed beside Tyler, boots scuffed, apron burned, but eyes blazing with quiet strength. The captain said nothing, just gave a slow nod and turned away. For the first time, no one questioned why she was there. After the repairs, the team gathered outside the bay. Still shaking from the near disaster, someone handed Sari a cup of water. Someone else offered a protein bar. She looked confused, unsure if it was safe to accept, but Tyler nodded, and she took the gifts with both hands. She didn't eat right away. She just stood silently, listening, absorbing the moment. That night, as the crew cleaned the soot and smoke stains, Sari stayed late. She scrubbed harder than anyone, her gloves torn, her knees bruised. She wasn't doing it to earn kindness anymore. She was doing it because she belonged. No longer the girl in the trash shadows, no longer the ghost behind. The bins, she had spoken. She had saved them, and now she had a voice. Later. Tyler sat beside her under the stars. A quiet moment between them. You were incredible today, he said softly. You didn't just fix the panel, Sari, you fixed something in all of us. She looked at him, her lips parting, her voice still shaky. You, ... Believed me, she said, slowly, like she was learning the shape of each word. Tyler smiled. From the first meal, he said. Sari turned her face to the stars, the wind brushing her hair. She thought of her people, of her home, of all the days she had stayed silent, and now, in this strange metal world, a human had given her food, purpose, and finally, her voice. She wasn't hungry anymore, not for food, not for names, not for shelter. She had been the girl no one fed but Now, she fed others with hope, with action, with words.